Okay, so welcome to another puzzle set. This one is about this piece. These are called armies. Okay, so this is actually the second player-specific piece we're going to be talking about. Now, so what are some things we could say about armies? Well, armies and these player-specific guards, they actually can't be, built the same way that uh, they can't be built the same way that neutral pieces or nobilities can be built. So there's a specific way that they're built, which we'll get into later. Uh, what else could we say about armies? Well, since they're player-specific pieces, they move similar to nobility, right? You could move here for one action, you could kind of jump over here for two, and so on, right? They could also be frozen, right, by rebels, and they're kind of unfrozen by neutral guards. What's unique about armies? Well, one thing that's unique is that they could destroy things, and the way that they do that is they simply step on things, okay, and they destroy it. So it's just like a regular move, like it takes 3 actions to move here, and then they destroy something. Ooh, destroyed, right? So, what else is there? Well, one other thing I'll tell you right away is that they freeze things, okay? Uh, so what does that mean? Um, they freeze player-specific pieces, and only player-specific pieces of other colors, right? So, if you have a red nobility, here's a green nobility, here's a green army, which is another player-specific piece. They're all frozen because of this, uh, army. So kind of like rebels, uh, except they don't freeze their own pieces, right? This piece is not frozen, right? This blue army is actually frozen because of this green army, right? They freeze each other, right? Like this. These two pieces freeze each other. Uh, you know. So what else is important? Well, there's some technicalities with the before and after rule. So, this is how it works. If you're going to destroy something, what you do is you first remove it from the board, right? And then you go to that spot. But in a case like this, right, we can't remove this neutral guard from the board yet, right? So because like what I'm saying is that if we do, we can no longer get to this spot right here. Okay, that's the idea. So when destroying things, if first removing that thing from the board causes the army that's moving to be frozen, that's not good. You can't do that. But you could walk into a spot that's you could walk into a spot right here that freezes you. You could even destroy this neutral guard because you remove it first and you move here, right? So in that case, it is allowed, right? It's only when removing it first makes you frozen before the movement. Okay. I think we're ready to get into some puzzles. So here is our first puzzle. So we want to destroy or freeze all of the red player-specific pieces. So armies, mobility, everything we could destroy, we want to destroy. Okay. So if you haven't gotten it yet, you can pause the video. So I'm going to tell you that this actually takes two actions for this puzzle. Okay. So what's the solution? Right. So if you got it in more than two actions, of course, pause the video. But what's the solution here? The solution would be to move over here, and destroy. Destroy either this army right here, because then you freeze both of these, or you move over here and destroy both of these. And you might be wondering, in this game, doesn't that mean that it's kind of like a draw because everything's frozen? Well, look. So I guess something I didn't tell you is that in the rules of Avaricium, right? If you can't if you can't change the board during your turn, you lose. And if you're the last player that's remaining, that hasn't lost yet, right? Then you win, right? As soon as everyone else loses, you win. So actually, it's not that easy to get draws. Okay, so something like this is not a draw. You could also, I don't know if I said, but you could also go over here, two actions. Same idea. Mind you, there's a difference between hopping over here and destroying, and then moving over here, and then because if you move over here, you're frozen. That's no good, right? So you have to do a hop. It takes two actions to hop over here. Okay. So here is our next puzzle. Okay. Yeah. So it's a bit of a tricky one. So if you haven't gotten it yet, you could pause the video. So I'm actually going to tell you that it takes 7 actions. Okay. So if if you haven't gotten it in 7, if you got it in more, or if you got it in less, somehow, then try to pause the video and so here it is. Here's the solution. You go. So what's the idea? If you have to destroy something, right? Because you can't freeze all of them at once. So what are you going to destroy? Well, you can't destroy this one because you'll be frozen. You can't move anywhere. You can't destroy this one because you'll be frozen. You can't move anymore. You can't destroy this one because you'll be frozen. You can't move anywhere. So you have to destroy this one. So you have to go all the way to here. It takes 5 actions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I said this takes 7. So what's the other 2? So you can't destroy this one, right? Because then you won't be freezing this one. You can't destroy this one because then you won't be freezing this one. So you gotta hop over here and destroy this one, right? So a hop that takes 5 to get here, and a hop that takes 2 to get over here, right? Yeah. So if it's of course it's important, always who you're beside, right? Because if you're beside armies, you're frozen. If you're beside nobility, you're not frozen. Important to pay attention to that. So here is our next puzzle. So if you haven't solved it yet, you could pause the puzzle. You could pause the video. So this takes 3 actions. Okay, so if you got it in more or less than 3 somehow, then do pause the video and try to see at least why it's in 3 maybe. Okay, what's the solution? So okay, first idea might look this. You're like, oh, you could destroy this, right? Why not, right? You could just well, see, the thing is that if you're doing that, the first thing you do is you move it away, right? And then you move your piece onto it, right? Like in some sense, right? And the idea is that it violates the before and after rule. So this appears first, and then the idea is that if you make it disappear, you're frozen. You can't get to that spot. That's no good. So what do you have to do? You actually have to move back over here, right? 1, and then 2, 3. So when you move back here, you're going to hop back there. It gets destroyed, and then you move 1, 2, 3. Okay, like that. So that's what you have to do in this case. Okay, so just a bit of a puzzle, kind of trying to figure out the before and after rule here. Okay, here's our next puzzle. So if you haven't gotten it, you could pause the video. Okay, I'm going to tell you that you could do this puzzle in 6 actions. So if you got it in some other amount, you could pause the video. Okay, so what's the solution here? What's the solution with 6 actions? Why is it 6 actions? Okay, well, you actually start off with one of your pieces frozen, right? So we have this piece is the only one that could really act. And you could target something over here. So what's the idea? The idea is that if you target, anything really, if you go and destroy anything, any piece using this, you're going to get frozen. So really, you're only and the thing is that there's no place you could go to freeze, the rest of the 4 pieces. Right? You can't freeze all these 4 at once. Impossible. So what we have to do is actually we're going to destroy this piece. Now, why is that? Because if you destroy this one, it frees this one. So you could actually keep kind of like leapfrogging and complete this puzzle. That's one way to do it. It's one way to well, you could destroy all the pieces like that, actually, but you don't need to, right? Because the point is to either freeze or destroy everything. So that took 2 actions to get here. Now, but now really you just have to freeze these 3, and this one's free. This army is free. So our next idea is to hop over here, right? And freeze that. So that took 4 actions to get there, and now everything is frozen. 6 actions. Okay, let's look at our final puzzle over here. So the question is how many actions does this take? Okay, so if you haven't gotten it yet, you could pause the puzzle, pause the video. I'm going to tell you that this takes 4 actions. So if you haven't gotten it before, pause the video. So what's the solution? So it's a pretty neat one. So what happens is that you're going to walk forward over here, right here, right into danger. So that's 1 action, right? then what we're going to do is we're going to use this nobility, right? Because we can't use this one because this one's frozen. So we're going to use this nobility to build a neutral guard right here. So that's 1, 2. And then our last two actions, we're going to destroy this army, 3, and then 4. Place an army like that. Okay, there we go. 4 actions, and that's it for